Welcome, friends, to the Here I Go Again podcast, where we discuss life, faith, politics, and a whole lot more. I'm your host, Rob Standridge, and I'm glad you're joining us today. So with that, here we go. Welcome to the Here I Go Again podcast, our, seventh episode.
All right.
Welcoming Charlie Meadows, the great Charlie Meadows. So Charlie, how are things in your life these days?
Very busy.
Very busy?
Very busy. For an old man, I'm 79 now.
79. Well, and, wow. 79 years young.
Yes, sir. There we go.
Yeah.
And so I'm very involved in politics again.
Well, good.
I'm supporting probably 7 senators, maybe 5 or 6 different House members.
Okay.
Multiple statewide candidates that I'm involved in. And I'm also involved in this State Question 832, which I hope to talk about a little bit. It's the most dangerous state question we've ever voted on in Oklahoma. And a lot of people may not understand how bad it is. I'm actually going to be speaking tonight over in Chandler at a candidate forum over there about this question. If you'd like, I'll just go into it real quickly and tell why it's such a bad question.
Since we hopped on it, let's go ahead and cover that. 832, this is the minimum wage question.
Minimum wage, if it passes, in 3 short years, it will more than double our minimum wage, up to $15 an hour. However, it does not stop there, Rob.
Yes.
It ties it to an index. Right. And so this index is based upon a cost of living in cities like New York and Chicago and LA and Seattle and such as that. And it's estimated in about 10 years our minimum wage would be up to $30 an hour. But remember, it's not just for 10 more years. That's ad infinitum. That will go up every year. And at $30 an hour, what you will see is many entry-level jobs will evaporate.
They'll all go away. Many
small businesses will go out of business. And it will be devastating to people on a fixed income. Yeah. And so there's a few other things that a lot of people don't know about it. There is currently under state law, students, part-time workers, farm workers, and domestic workers are all exempted from minimum wage laws.
And disabled folks too, as well.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
But if this passes, they will lose that exemption, so you'll have to pay them those jobs, and many of those jobs will evaporate. And then another thing, too, is they exempted state and federal employees. They did not exempt county and city. So if this thing passes, your counties and cities will have to pay that, which will mean you'll either have tax increases or reduction of services or some of both. And most people don't realize who's behind this. It's the Democratic Socialists of America and their local chapter
that
are behind this. Yeah. And it's being financed by billionaires that hate America. And
I don't understand why people don't understand what minimum wage is. This socialists, of course, their goal is just to destroy America, as we know it. But, I mean, minimum wage, we've all done it.
Yeah.
It is not a career. It is not a landing place.
Right.
It's a place you go to get a job, to get into the market.
That's absolutely right.
And climb the ladder out of there.
That's right.
And I understand some, maybe an adult has to go back and retrain and has to work low. And I understand that's hard, but we have programs to help them. We have food stamps. We have housing allowances. We have things to help people when they're trying to get back on their feet. But thank you for working on it.
Well, our legal minimum wage in Oklahoma is $7.25 an hour. I don't think there's a person in Oklahoma that's working for that.
That's correct.
The entry-level job on average for most jobs in Oklahoma is $10 to $12 an hour.
That's right.
And in some cases even higher. I can remember a few years ago when there's a real shortage on workers. And so even to get a job at McDonald's or something, they were having to pay $15 an hour entry. And the market can set its own.
That's correct. And those workers, for the most part, are part-time, or even if they're full-time, this is a pathway. This is a rung on the ladder. It's not the final step in this living wage. This is a socialist concept.
Right.
So for them, living wages, everybody makes the same.
Yeah.
So no matter what you contribute, and we've, in socialist experiments fail every single time.
Yeah.
Because people, when they get paid for doing nothing or something,
Yeah.
which one do they choose?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. That's right.
That's human nature. But so you're speaking in Chandler tonight.
Yeah.
I assume
I go to churches everywhere.
Okay.
I ask for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And you give me 5 or 6 minutes, I can take that, and then I have handouts.
Okay.
One from the OCPA, the Oklahoma
Okay.
Council. Have
So you
seen
can get this.
one?
I have not, but you can go to OCPAthink.org. I
yes.
assume to get a copy of
And
this.
and it's okay as far as it goes. There's a QR code, which most people will never go to.
Right, correct.
And that's where you get some of the other details. So what I did, and what I will be handing out tonight, is this one and this right here. I summarized all of this right here.
If you read what goes here, you
yes,
would get it
and
here. Okay.
I simplified it, summarized it, put all that information there.
Okay.
Rob, it's passed in every state it's voted on except for one, and it narrowly lost in that particular state.
Well, leave me a copy of that,
So,
and
sure,
I'll post.
sure.
I'll scan that in and post it.
Yeah.
There's probably not a place they can download this one though, right?
I'd have to think
no,
about
on State
that.
Question 832. Well,
I'd have to think about that.
I'll scan it in, and on one of the links
And
I'll put.
here's the one. From,
Okay, OCPA.
And then so,
Okay.
but this is what I hand out. I'll hand these out tonight,
Okay.
and I will beg people to get copies, make copies, send to their friends, families, neighbors, and other places. This will be devastating to Oklahoma if it passes. This is the most dangerous state question.
And rural Oklahoma is struggles. I mean,
Sure.
there are actually some spots in Oklahoma where people are moving into rural Oklahoma, and bedroom communities. What people ought to understand is this will destroy your Main Street is already suffering. This will annihilate it.
Yes.
Only those ones that can afford
Yeah.
robotics and get rid of employees entirely.
Yeah.
Are going to survive this, and
Yeah.
your Big Macs are going to go. They're already gone a lot because of inflation, double that, and it's because that's the only they got to stay open. So they're going to have to pay the.
You may not
fee.
know this, but the 5th McDonald's store in Oklahoma City to open was the Shepherd Mall store, and I was there when it opened, first opened.
Well,
and,
I thought you said you're 39. Oh no, 79. That's right. You said, "Come on, Jack Benny, you should be 39."
Back in those days,
Yeah.
there was no indoor dining.
Oh really?
You walked up to the window and you got it, and you
I
left,
didn't know
or
that.
you sat down. There was no indoor
Okay.
dining until many years later.
So I always, we're kind of almost going back to that. Some of the McDonald's now has very little indoor
Yeah,
dining
see,
because they've
that's
gone
right.
to the
Yeah.
2 or 3 lanes on drive-through, and
And they want you to do everything on an app. See, that's the mechanization, so they can, or the automation, where they can cut down on
Right.
labor. That
and
way,
that's
you know?
part's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
cutting down on labor is fine. In fact, I think McDonald's, not that I need to brag on McDonald's. I don't care what people say. Everybody eats there one time or another,
Yeah,
especially if
yeah.
they have kids.
Yeah.
But they have done the best job of bribing
Yeah.
their app users. If you use their app much, you'll be eating free and stuff. I don't want to promote that, but I mean,
You'll have to say that. I have no idea. I don't use apps.
You get free stuff all the time. So it's yeah. Anyway,
I went on a trip my wife and I did last summer. And we went to the West Coast, and we were in California briefly. And when I left here, I could buy a large iced tea here for $1.35. But in California, where they had raised the minimum wage to $20 an hour for restaurant workers, that same iced tea was $2.85.
except for Panera Bread.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they made some examples.
He got exempted because he's
yeah.
the big guy in California.
Yeah,
well, thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Vote no on State Question 832 for sure.
Yes.
And unless you want to destroy rural Oklahoma at least and just raise all your prices through the roof. So going back, we talked before we came on camera, and you told me another thing about California. You met your wife in California,
Yes,
and she went from being a crazy left liberal, and now she's just normal.
I made an Okie out of her.
but I want to talk about also, I met you in your role at OPAC, Oklahoma. Well,
The Oklahoma Conservative Political Action Committee.
Right.
OPAC.
And so I think Bob, our good friend Bob Lynn, is now, filling your
President
shoes
now.
as president.
But it's
running
no
that.
longer a PAC.
Okay, I didn't
It's
know.
a 501c3 now.
Well, they have the
Has been-
foundation, though.
Yeah, but they don't ever raise any money in that. They can make endorsements through their OPAC action.
Okay.
Okay. The foundation is different,
Just
but
the-
like OCPA, they have an action group. They bonds ahead of that,
Okay.
so they can contribute and they can do that. But they don't have. They have an OPAC action, but they've never raised any money for it. So
okay.
they don't fund candidates anymore.
But and that's one thing interesting I read about your history when you ran that group. But I will say this: if you haven't made an OPAC meeting these days, I would encourage you to make one. They meet at the Oklahoma History Center every other Wednesday outside of session, right?
No, it varies.
It varies,
You
but
have
it's
you have to get it.
Get the email list so you know.
Yeah, they're meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
And then they meet in 2 weeks, and that's the final week
Before end of session, I guess.
Yeah, of this month. And last year they only met 14 times the whole year last year.
Yeah, they don't meet. You guys met every week.
I put a high premium on it. We missed, I tell you what, until say 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
We had only missed 10 Wednesdays in 29 years, 28 years.
That's amazing.
I had a very high premium on meeting every Wednesday.
Well, just to throw a little plug about this Wednesday, I wasn't necessarily planning this, but now that we're talking about it, I get the little flyers, and I think it's this Wednesday. These senators will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if this podcast though won't go out in time, so it doesn't do me any good. But anyway, Brian Guthrie and Julie McIntosh, two new senators. I think they probably both got 100%. I don't know if they both did, but anyway, amazing senators. Yeah. They came in with Lisa, my wife, Senator Standridge, and
Guthrie was late.
Okay.
So he doesn't have a score yet.
Oh, okay.
He will get one this year.
So those three, there's 5 of them all together that I call the Fab Five, which I've mentioned on my podcast before. It's Lisa, Brian Guthrie, Julie McIntosh, Randy Grellner, and Kendall Sacchieri.
Yes.
I call them the Fab Five.
Yes.
They are amazing, and they're so strong.
Yes, they
so
are.
strong. And this session, if people probably don't understand what kind of strength and courage it takes to do what they and the rest of the Freedom Caucus have done this session, that's unprecedented.
Yeah.
To stand up to leadership, to stand up for your conservative values, it's not as easy. People that don't serve think it's so easy.
Yeah.
It is not easy. Yeah. And so I admire them very much. Yeah. And I'm sure you do too. But I want to go back because I think you said 35 years ago.
OPAC is in its 34th year.
So I want to talk, how did you get interested in politics briefly, and then how did OPAC happen?
Well, I may blow your mind here.
Okay.
Moved back from California in 1972.
Okay.
And
originally, you're just a baby.
Originally went to the Plano, Texas area.
Okay.
And that's where my wife and I had our experience with the Lord.
Okay.
So in spring of '73, we moved up here, and I was just growing so involved in the Lord, and I came to the belief that Christians should not be involved in politics or government. They shouldn't vote or anything.
No.
And I was pretty effective at convincing people. You let these governments of the world go where they're going to go.
Caesar.
The real kingdom is the kingdom
Let
of
Caesar
God,
be Caesar or whatever. Yeah.
But one night I was listening to Point of View. That was Marla Maddox's national program, and I heard a couple on, and he had just retired as the superintendent of the Social Studies Department of the Baltimore, Maryland School District, 30-year career. And he realized that he had been a part in the destruction of America. He and his wife had formed a little organization, and they were going around telling what was wrong with the schools in America. And he was at a Baptist church in South Oklahoma City. My wife and I and another couple went down to hear that night. And he's behind a lectern, and there's a young man in a private school. It was CHA in its early days.
Okay.
And he was sitting there in a white shirt and tie, and there was a stack of books about this tall. And his job was to hand his name was Bill Bowen, I believe. They hand Mr. Bowen a book. He was going to make a quote out of it, and then take that book and hand him the next one. In an hour, he went through that whole book. Every quote he read was from the proponents of our modern educational system. And my eyes were opened. They were intentionally trying to destroy education in America, or I would rephrase it like this, to captivate it, to use it, to indoctrinate our children.
That's correct,
and
yes.
destroy America.
Destroy our children first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I used to tell people, if you wanted to read just one book to find out what happened to our educational system in America, it was written in 1983 by Samuel Blumenfeld. It was called NEA, Trojan Horse in American Education. In that book, there's a quote from Mary Hartwood Futrell, who was the president of the NEA at that point in time. Here's the quote. Now, this comes from the president of the largest teachers union in America. Here's her quote. Education is on the back burner to us. We are walking the halls of Congress to reshape America. Reshape it into what?
Yeah.
I would say Barack Obama said it in 3 words. Hope and change. We hope to change America from its founding principles based upon Judeo-Christian values to one of humanism, the free market system to one of socialism, and so on. And so that's the book that I would read. It's a 200-year span of education. That book was updated in 2015, and Sam took on a co-sponsor, a man named Alex Newman. And shortly after it was published, Sam died. He was in his 90s. And today, Alex Newman is, in my opinion, has the mantle. He knows more about what's wrong with our government schools than any person in America, and he has just written a brand new book. I just obtained a copy of it.
Okay.
He was at Oak speaking,
Okay.
and at Fairview Baptist, and I actually obtained it at Oak.
What's the name of his new book?
I can't remember.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I just obtained it.
Okay. And the author's name is what again?
Alex Newman.
Alex Newman. So you can.
And Alex can speak on virtually any subject. He's an amazing guy. He's fluent in 8 languages. He's a child prodigy. Born in America, raised in Mexico City. He met his wife in one of the Scandinavian countries.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
And then they come over here, and he goes on tour for the John Birch Society. And he's they got a little travel trailer, and they're traveling all over the United States speaking. And he spoke
this issue about the public schools.
Well, that or globalism or whatever you want him to speak about. It doesn't matter. You know, he can. He's one of the most brilliant people I've ever seen.
Well, the schools, man, I was so frustrated because I tackled that my entire. It's one. I ran because my kids came along, and so. To see what they're doing to our children in our schools, and we see the product today. And it's despicable that people would prey on these kids. Is what they're doing.
I'm not sure government schools can be reformed because it's actually planned failure.
Well, yeah, but if we don't do something, because most parents are going to choose that innocently, most of them.
Yes.
And so, and plus they want their kids to play sports and be in theater. And those.
Yes.
So we have to, as Christians and
I
as
think
leaders,
we
have to do it.
And I think Ryan Walters,
he tried.
He understood what the problem was. What he didn't realize, first off, he was not well organized with things, and I'm supporting Dr. James Taylor, JT.
Oh yeah, me too.
And JT would know how to fix it like Ryan did, but Ryan didn't realize how much opposition he would.
Yeah, I don't think
he would
did.
increase, and when it started falling apart, he got defensive, and so he had to step aside. And I've urged JT, if he wins, to get somebody with great organization skills to take care of that, to free him to be able to inspire students of how to learn. He's done an excellent job of that, teaching himself. and he can work with teachers and administrators.
JT can work with anybody.
Yeah,
He's a very good communicator.
Yeah.
He's a very loving, good guy, and so I think he could
is.
approach this with truth and love, which needs to be done.
Yes.
But what baffling about the whole Ryan saga is one of the big results of his work were what social studies standards.
Yeah.
And I looked at those, I read them, and I thought, well, this is pretty. I mean, calling 2020 I think it called it controversial. Some people think it's controversial. It was very soft language. It wasn't they cheated. It wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
And then he mentions Christianity about a dozen or 30 times. I forget. He puts that in our history, that the part that Christianity played.
Sure.
And even supposed conservative people got on there, and the first thing they did was throw that out to the trash. The first thing they did is throw God out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you don't like the guy, you don't support the guy. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you, maybe too confrontational and stuff like that. I get that part.
Yeah.
But why would you throw out, if you're with God, why would you throw out standards that all they're trying to do is teach these children where their history is, what their true history is, and the 2020, they use that as an excuse. Somebody should read that. It's not controversial at all.
Let me give you a quote from Vladimir Lenin.
Okay.
This is not a person I particularly respect or like.
It's not. You didn't bring his book, I guess.
No, I didn't. But I will tell you this. He made a statement one time that I think we need to pay attention to. He said, if you can separate a people from their history, they are easily persuaded.
Yeah.
And so if you teach revisionist history in our schools, which we do.
Yes, we do. Big time.
And poor history and things, and all of a sudden we don't realize where we came from, then we're easily persuaded to something else, anything else.
Yeah.
And if I could tell another interesting story.
Yeah.
In 1990, when I was considering running for the state senate, my wife and I went to Branson for a week. We were going to pray and seek the Lord whether I would run or not. And I get over there and I look in the newspaper and I see that this Reverend Nade they'd shown a film of his on Thursday night.
Okay.
Well, I knew Reverend Nade to be a member of the African National Congress, which was a Communist Front organization, and I'd just seen a picture of him where he was standing in front of that flag and the South African Communist flag, and he was speaking in this picture. Okay, so I'm shocked to see that they'd had the film, and then I saw that there was a group going to be there the next Monday night, and I could tell they were a liberal group. Now I didn't know who Saul Alinsky was at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
But they were from Chicago, and I decided to go to that. And it was required for the students to go. They have a beautiful auditorium, and I get there early, and I'm sitting right in the middle, and pretty soon the students start filing in. There's also a balcony up there, and it was packed, and this group came out, and there were 3 guys and 2 girls, and a guy jump off the stage every once in a while with a mic, and they weren't wireless mics. And he had asked some kid on the front row a loaded question. If you didn't answer it right, you're going to be the jerk of the college. You know? And then so it comes time to close, and the chaplain comes out with the leader of the group. And the leader says, now before we pray, we want to know what we've said or done to get your juices going tonight. And so I couldn't read these kids. They were very quiet through the whole deal.
Probably didn't care.
So I stood up and held my hand up, and they're trying to get a mic to me. And I said, I don't need a mic. And I said, I'd just like to know what you would do different than they did in the Soviet Union, since they were a total failure in meeting the needs of their people. Well, the group guy, he did what I learned in sales school, a reversal. He said, why in the world would you say something like that? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard you say. Well, I began to hear the students when I said that say, yeah, they're socialists, you know. And so that gave me an opportunity to say again, but I heard him say, there's the president, there's the president. Now, he was new. He was coming down from he got there late. He was up and he was headed down to where the mic was. So I said it again. I said, you have proposed a type of government tonight that would guarantee everyone wonderful health care from the womb to the tomb. Guarantee everyone a wonderful education all the way to college. Guarantee everyone a fantastic job. Guarantee everyone a 2-story house to live in. Guarantee everyone a 2-car garage with new cars. And guarantee everyone a chicken in the pot every night to eat. And the only kind of government that can guarantee that for its people is a government that owns and controls all the means of production of goods and services, which is a Soviet-style government. So I ask you again, what would you do different than they did, since they were a total failure in meeting the needs of the people? And before he could answer, the president grabbed that mic and he said, I'm so sick and tired of these people coming through here bashing America, bashing the free enterprise system, disrespecting our donors, and this is going to stop. And so we prayed, and when you looked up, the group was gone. I had 15 or 20 students following me out saying, we're so glad you said that. We never know what we can say around here.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I made an appointment to go in the next day and meet with the president. And as I walked in, before I could say a word, he said, I want you to know I've chewed that chaplain up one side and down another. And
why would he bring them in?
And so, well, that chaplain was, he taught, I'm trying to think of the theology. Oh gosh, it was, can't remember the name of this theology, but basically it was that Jesus was a revolutionary. And I had a picture of a magazine where Jesus's face was, you know, one side was kind of that Roman picture, the other side he was a Marxist. He had stuff, and he had
oh really?
Yeah, he had okay. You know, bullets on both sides, and portrayed him as a revolutionary. What had happened is they had there had been an uprising in, I believe, the Philippines some years back, and the communists tried to take over, and the Christians were the ones that rose up and stopped that. And so they realized that if they were going to convince Christians to become revolutionaries, communists, they were going to have to portray Jesus as a revolutionary. Yeah. But anyway,
he was a bit of a revolutionary, but not what they think.
But not that, yeah, not
that
kind. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, he ended up firing that
chaplain,
and he turned that university back to its Christian roots. And today he doubled the size of it, put it on firm founding. They've even started a pre-K through 12 there.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that.
Where's this at again?
In Branson.
Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, it's actually in Hollister, just immediately south of Branson.
I know that's at. Yeah. Okay.
College of the Ozarks.
College of the Ozarks. Right.
Yeah.
I had a friend that played basketball there years ago,
and if you go there, they
have a good basketball team.
They have a giant. You know, there's no tuition at that college.
Yeah.
They own businesses, and every student has to do 19 hours a week. Working in that, and the profits from the business,
and they get credit, some credit for that.
Yeah. And,
no, I've heard nothing but great things.
No, it is. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to go back because I did not, although I'm familiar with OPAC, of course. One of the first surveys that I filled out many moons ago when I ran for office, and so I read up on it recently. So share with us how did OPAC come about, and how were you involved in that?
So.
And how was Rush Limbaugh involved in that, more importantly?
Yeah, I'll get to all of that, okay? So Tim and I... Tim Green was going to run for the state chairman of the Republican Party. And he asked me to help him. He had helped me in my run for the state Senate. I couldn't talk him out of it, and so I agreed to do that. We started meeting on Wednesdays to plan out our strategy and determine what we'd do for the week. And after about 3 of those, I said, Tim, why don't we invite some more guys? So the very next one to come was Jim Marshall. I don't know if you know who Jim is.
That name sounds
or
familiar.
not.
But,
and Jim used to be the state director of Oklahomans for Right to Work.
Okay, that's where I learned. Yeah, I think
then,
Mike Reynolds might have shared that name with me.
Yes,
actually. Yeah.
And then right now, I mean, he retired. And right now, he's the temporary chief of staff for the Corporation Commission.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And he was labor commissioner for Brenda Renault and Mark Costello.
Okay.
And then he was chief of staff. Chief of staff for both of those.
Okay.
And then John Doak.
Okay.
And then he retired, and they got in a bind over at the Corporation Commission. They brought him out of retirement recently.
Yeah. Well, no, I think Mike Reynolds had shared about how his brother got elected, and the right to work was a big part of that.
Right.
I think Jim Marshall might have been involved at that time.
Right. But anyway, so Jim was the next one to join, and just more and more that joined. We didn't win that race, but we had been having so much fun that we just kept meeting.
And what year would this have been?
So
89?
Oh gosh.
90?
Let me think. It would have been about 92.
Oh, 92. Okay.
About 92 is when it would have started. And so then we started meeting at different places, and there was Rush Limbaugh was actually on TV for a year.
He had a daily TV show.
He had a TV program, and we were meeting at the Split T at that time.
Okay.
Is
that downtown?
Northwestern.
Oh, Northwestern. Okay.
Yeah. And the Split T had 3 rooms. I don't think there's a restaurant there now, but it had a lower level, mid-level, and a back room. And Rusty Hilger was the former OSU quarterback, owned it at that time.
Oh, okay. All right.
And in that back room, it was all shiny black with demons all over it, that with blue light, they were dragons and everything. We were meeting in the middle room. They moved us to that back room, so we called it the Rush Room from Hell.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that part.
We'd watch his TV program, and then.
So he was your speaker every meeting.
He was our speaker every meeting for a while there, and anyway. So he had this bake sale, Dan's Bake Sale.
Okay.
In Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay.
And another guy and I went up there. I had designed a Rush Limbaugh bumper sticker. If I'd known we'd gone here, I'd have brought it. So what it was a balance beam, and way over here at the right was a fulcrum.
Okay.
And it said balance in there. And on the short side of leverage was Rush Limbaugh. And out here on the long side of leverage, it was ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN.
Oh, okay.
And so the message was Rush Limbaugh balances these others out. And then there was an international, the red with a slash mark through it, meaning you don't even need them. So a friend of mine and I go up to Fort Collins, and I'm going to hawk these bumper stickers. Okay. And so we get up there the night before, and we're looking, and this cameraman comes up to me, and he says, "What do you have here?" And I explain it to him, and he said, "Well, I work for this one." I don't remember his ABC or whoever.
So I can't buy that, right?
I said, "No, that's cool." He said, "I also work from this one," and it was the Rush Limbaugh show.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
And he said, "Let's go over to this camera and do an interview." So we went over there and did this interview, and he was saying, "Are you having a good time?" I said, "I sure am." He said, "Should we have one of these next year?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, where should it be next year?" I said, "Next year it ought to be in Little Rock, Arkansas." Because who was president at the time?
Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And so anyway, on the next Monday's TV program, Rush had, I was on his TV program saying, next year it ought to be in Little Rock, Arkansas.
I watched that. I watched that show some too. But,
but anyway, we were up there hawking these bumper stickers, and when Rush spoke, there were about 70,000 people went to that.
Really?
Wow. And here's how it came about, because I was listening. I used to listen all the time to it. And so somebody called in, and he said, "Rush," his name was Dan. He said, "Rush, I absolutely love your newsletter." He said, "I've got a friend that makes a copy of it and sends it to me." Rush says, "What do you mean? That's a violation of copyright. Why don't you buy a copy for yourself?" And he said, "Well, I'm a college student. I don't have the money." And he said, "Well, why don't you have a bake sale?" And you may not know this, but Bill Clinton was urging young people to have bake sales and send the profits to the federal government to reduce the debt.
Oh, I don't remember that. Oh,
yep.
That's
and
rich.
So he said, "Why don't you have a bake sale?" "Well, I can't." "Well, have your wife bake some cookies." "She hates you, Rush."
Oh my gosh.
And he said, so that was it. So that ended, his call. The next person came on. He said, hey, Rush, I'll bake a couple of dozen brownies and send to him. Another one calls on and says, it's Brennan's from New Orleans.
Yeah.
And said, Rush, if he'll have a bake sale up in Fort Collins, we'll come up and we'll set a booth up. The next guy calls in. He says, Rush, I have billboards all over America. I'll dedicate 60 billboards to it or whatever. And that's how this thing started.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm up there, and so when he spoke, they brought him in on a horse. Rush didn't like crowds, but he had a stage, brought him in on a horse. And Fort Collins had this street that they had permanently made for a walkway and had all kinds of businesses on the side of it. I didn't even go down there to where he was speaking. I stayed up to, kind of out of the way, and there was a booth over here. It was Dan's booth. And I went over and talked to his wife, and I said, "Well, you still hate Rush?" She says, "No, he's paying for our college tuition." and so Dan worked in a Chinese restaurant, and they baked a big Chinese cookie, and it had the check for $29.95 for his subscription to the newsletter, But after that was over with, I had this sign on me said $2 a piece or 3 for $5. I was rushed by people, so I could not stand my ground. I had people lined up in front of it, but the whole movement was going that way. My biggest problem was what I do with all these 20s and stuff like this. I sold $1,007 worth of bumper stickers on that trip.
Oh my gosh!
It was an absolute blast. It was a huge number of people, and
we sure miss Rush.
One last funny thing is he used to have a guy calling in from New Mexico, and he sounded real rough and everything. And he was actually retired from IBM.
I think I remember that.
I think it was Nick or something like that.
Yeah, I remember.
Nick was there, and I got to.
He had a guy from down in Texas too. So I think a black guy or something who always call in from Texas.
And Snerdley was his Bo Snerdley.
Bo
I
Snerdley.
Actually got Bo to sign one of my.
Oh really?
Yeah. But anyway, it was. And my friend that went with me, he saw a guy standing up on a planter box, and he had a sign that said, "Have home, have job, have car, want airplane." And this guy had a basket, and my friend said people walk by there and throw a 10 or 20 in there, and he saw him download that basket twice.
Oh my!
It's just the uniqueness of it,
Have home, have car. Well,
but anyway, so we called ourselves a lot of time we just called ourselves the Wednesday Lunch Bunch, and then we started calling ourselves the Rite of Rush Bunch, and anyway, kind of there were
something I read, and maybe I didn't understand it, but I thought one of the places that you were meeting after Clinton was elected, they chose to stop showing the Rush Limbaugh show, so you had to switch to a different venue.
So what happened was we switched to a different venue, and they weren't showing it anymore. We were listening on radio at that time, and Rush used to be live.
Right.
I mean, he used to be delayed. Well, they had pumped this in live.
Oh, okay.
So we were meeting. It was a hotel up on 63rd. It changed. It was a fellow who was a liberal, and that was our last week there. So we had to find another place.
That's what I understood.
We had to find another place, But over the years, Rob, I raised almost almost $500,000. And we were the major funder for the most conservative candidates that had a hard time raising money.
Especially during that period when Oklahoma went from 90% Democrat or whatever, 80%, and started getting Republicans. Yeah. That's the time period where OPAC really became active, right?
Right, that's true. And it was easier to raise money for to run against Democrats. But once the Republicans came in the majority, now it gets a little more difficult, because when you endorse one Republican over another one, or you try to take out an incumbent or something like that, you make people mad.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but at its peak, while I was president doing the weekly newsletter, we had over 5,000 people on direct email. When we started a website, we had that first primary election had 15,000 people log into that website for my Charlie's Picks, and I would put out this Charlie's Picks.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And anyway, of all of the people we interviewed, well over 500 candidates for the state legislature. Of all of them we interviewed, we supported about 40% of them. And of the 40% we supported, about 55 to 60% won. And we made a few mistakes, but for the most part, they were the most conservative legislators in the state.
I've heard that of those 500, the absolute number one superstar was in 2012, and last name was Standridge. Is that right? Oh no, Dom. Maybe it was Dom. Okay. Well, Nathan was a guest of mine a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Nathan is a dear friend. Him and Christina, amazing family, and I came in with Nathan, and sadly, I think Nathan's like me, a little jealous. We didn't have a Freedom Caucus. I mean, we created or we brought in the Freedom Caucus as we were leaving. Yeah. But I didn't know if this was true. When I looked at the record, I think maybe he might be the only one you ever maxed out to. So
no, we maxed out to 2 or 3 more, but we did max out to Nathan, and Nathan ran against a millionaire, and it was a primary and a primary runoff. The total amount of money that Nathan had for both of those, not each, but for both of them, was about $29,000.
Oh my gosh!
And so we maxed out, but I raised probably another $7,000 or $8,000 for Nathan, so well over half of the money. And I got into a bit of a lot of times the candidates we would support would not be the candidates the tall building crowd supported.
Right, yeah.
That's your primary, your state chamber, and your Oklahoma City and Tulsa and Norman chambers of commerce. And so when Nathan won, my wife and I were on a trip, and it was a runoff, and there were 4 candidates, and we agreed with the state chamber on one of the candidates. Of the other 3, they won 1 and we won 2.
Oh wow! Okay.
And Nathan was one of those that we won. And I can remember on that trip, we were at one point in time coming across the state of South Dakota, and I get a call from somebody from the state chamber, and he asked where OPAC would stand on some state questions coming up. And I said, well, I haven't polled OPAC on this, but I can tell you I agree with you on this one. And so I said, when I get back off this vacation, he said, we were hoping that you would help us with the most conservative people here in the state. And anyway,
I think State Question 832 would probably fall in the same bucket, because I assume
that the state chamber's against this one.
I would assume so.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I found that over the years that I would agree with the state chamber on most things. But when it comes to electing candidates, I understand the rationale, Charlie. It's actually pretty simple. Yeah. They want people in there that are going to be pliable, that are going to bow and do those things. And so I get that. If I was the state chamber, why wouldn't you want that?
The last I knew, Oklahoma was subsidizing about $500 million a year in subsidies, either upfront subsidies or back-end kickbacks. And the tall building crowd, they want to make sure their buddies
still keep getting their money.
They get the favored opportunity. They get the
that's what I'm saying.
Back end.
They want a pliable person that will follow leadership and do. Listen, again, if I was the head of state chamber, why would you not want that? That's their mission.
That's part of the warfare.
But strong people have to stand up and say, okay, I'll vote with you on all these other things that we agree on. Yeah. But I can't be with you. And that's where my voting record was. I was with them. Yeah. But when it came to corporate welfare, to me, I don't believe that any business should get any better favor than
Right.
any other business.
You don't believe in crony capitalism.
I don't
then.
believe in that, and I understand there are some of those incentives that I would argue with my seatmates. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, and they're conservative too. But I would argue with them, and there are some where I can see their point. But when you let one cat out, you let them all out, and so how can I say, okay, the incentive for Charlie Meadows, I sure want him to see him do better. I mean, if I'm going to vote for one for you, then I'm going to vote for one, and it really is. I think if legislators really met with the people they're handing the money over to, they might change their mind. Because most of them are these big fat cats. They don't even need money, Charlie. Panasonic, the last thing in the world they need is more money. I mean,
or the thunder.
They'll take the $1 billion.
Or the thunder, for example.
Yeah, they'll take the $1 billion, and I would too. So I never fault the businesses. I don't even fault the state chamber. I fault the people at the Capitol. The ones that are supposed to be there standing up for people. And when you do that. But
could we jump to the modern election cycle we're in right now?
Okay. Well, first though, on the OPAC.
Okay.
Just to finish that out, it turned into a PAC around 2000, right? And that's, or 2001, something like that?
No, it was, so about our first 4 years, we were a debating society.
Okay, but so it only lasts 4 years like that, and then you converted.
And then we actually formed a PAC.
And you and Tim Green kind of did that together, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to everyone one day, and we'd been meeting, every week, and we'd hoot and holler. And debating societies have a lot of fun, but they never accomplish anything.
No, it's for fun.
And so I proposed to everyone that we form a PAC. We have an objective and a strategy of how to get there, and they liked that idea. So our first election cycle, we raised the whopping sum of $4,000.
Okay.
And we had 4 candidates that we contributed to.
$1,000 each.
$1,000
Can make a difference.
And one of them was Jim Reynolds.
Oh, really? Okay.
And Jim raised about $30,000, and so our 1,000 was just a part of that. But a lot of our members went down and knocked doors for him. And Jim won that seat, and that was like Midwest City and a little bit south.
Over
and all.
one issue, partial birth abortion.
And it was the first time a Republican had ever held that seat anywhere at all. And then the next year, we raised, the next election cycle, we raised, 20,000, and it just kept going up. My last 3 election cycles while I was president raised 41,000, 43, and 46,000. And we were able to max out, and we were able to help a lot of candidates.
We need that today.
Yes, we do.
We need it.
We do. We don't have that today. And I'll be honest with you, possibly coming out of this podcast that we're doing now, we may start another PAC.
Okay.
And if we do, we'll call it the Oklahoma Conservative Political Action Committee 2.0. Okay. Now, current OPAC, none of those letters stand for that.
Okay.
They're like optimizing something else.
And
so they still use, because of the reputation of the organization, they still call it OPAC, but it doesn't. It's not a PAC, and it doesn't stand for that anymore.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And so anyway, if we do form that, then once we get the approval of the name, then we'll just call it OPAC 2.0.
Well, the Freedom Caucus, who I'm a member of and I'm a huge fan of, that's one of the areas that I'm going to start helping out there, because we really need to raise some money and get involved. We can't this cycle; it's too late as far as money, but we need to start. We need to have several groups across the state,
right?
That, because like you said, it's not easy getting involved in races with multiple Republicans, but we have to.
Right.
We have to.
Right.
But so fast forward to today.
Yeah.
So today we have a little bit of a leadership thing going on at the Capitol. We've been seeing it in the news between the House and the Senate, and the Senate and some of their members. Having a spouse, a wife in the Senate. Of course, I'm paying attention.
Sure.
And there's always those. I was in there 12 years, and so there's always squabbles. There's always disagreements. But to me, it seems a little different this time. The last few years I was there was this kind of leadership versus members deal, and you haven't been that active as much the last few years. It doesn't seem like now.
So
it seems
when
like
I was
you're
a
becoming
county
more
commissioner, I had no time
active.
to do Charlie's Picks.
Oh, okay.
And actually, in 2018, that's when I had stepped aside about 2016 from the presidency. I didn't run for re-election, and John Mitchner took over.
I recall that.
And anyway, we built a home with intention of selling it. So June 1st of 2018, I fully retired. I'd been in the window cleaning business for 44 years.
Yes.
And on June 11th, we closed on that home that we had sold, and we were instantly homeless. And 6 days later, we put our Lance camper in the back of our 1-ton Ford diesel.
Okay.
And we hit the road, and we spent all summer in Western Canada and Alaska.
Oh, wow.
We were gone 97 days and then got back and had to be responsible again. So we built the home we're living in now.
All right.
Which is the third
So you took
home
some time for yourself.
Yes,
Good for you.
that was right. And while I'm in Alaska, John resigns and Bob takes over.
Okay.
And that transition didn't go too smoothly
About
at
2020 or something like that?
Probably about that.
Somewhere around COVID.
Right, about that. A little before COVID.
A little bit before COVID, okay.
And so anyway, when I get back, I help Bob, and we finally get fully all the control over to both of our email list and our Facebook social media list. We finally get that all under control. And then it took about a year to reestablish.
Yeah,
it had almost been destroyed.
It seemed like it dwindled down to not much anything. Yeah.
Yes. And so then COVID hits, and we can't have people come to us. No. So Bob and I started driving to all over the state to interview candidates, and we developed a new way. It was far superior than when you were there. We'd have the candidates come, we'd ask a question, and if they didn't answer it suitably, you would have to, you'd hope you could do a follow-up, but maybe someone else took it another direction or something like that, and sometimes they'd answer off of each other. We found out that when you go to them just one-on-one, you can really find out what they know, what they stand for.
Whether it's real, whether it's true.
Whether it's, you can bear down as many. And what I found, and most people, now here's the reality. Of all the candidates that we've interviewed in the years, only about 15% had a conservative ideology fully developed before they came to us.
Okay.
And maybe only half of them got elected. And then another 15% have a conservative ideology halfway developed. One would be Randy Brogdon, and maybe only half of them got elected. The rest of them don't have a clue why they're Republican. They're either one because their daddy or their granddaddy, or maybe Bill Clinton or Barack Obama or Joe Biden said something they didn't like, and so that's why they're a Republican. But as far as understanding how to take biblical principles and translate them into good public policy, they had no idea. Well, through the way we do this now, we're able to, it becomes a teaching thing, and it's just so superior. And then we have lots of materials. There was a picture of David Bullard reading The Law by Frederick Bastiat.
No, that's you reading it, but
okay.
I mentioned David Bullard because I was on the phone with him a minute ago.
Okay,
and Senator David Bullard.
That's right.
And he said, say hi to Charlie and tell him I'm reading The Law.
Yeah. So that book,
and you gave me a copy of that years ago too.
That book was written in 1849 by a French economist and statesman, and that book does the best job of anything I've ever seen to show what are the proper functions of government for which we must pay taxes versus those that are improper. And it shows that when government participates in an improper function of government, it participates in legalized plunder. I'm sorry.
Yeah, plunder. Yes.
It makes thievery legal.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's a fantastic. And we hand that book out. There's many things that we hand out to people now, and they're short. They don't take a lot of time. And if people will do them, it's just absolutely revolutionary in their lives, and it helps prepare them to be a good lawmaker.
So window cleaning,
Yes.
carpet cleaning. So you did that for
Windows,
years.
yeah.
Windows. But I don't know, something about carpet cleaning comes to mind. So my thought when you first told me that was, conservative. It's this group. And do you ever watch Seinfeld? Probably not.
No.
Oh. Well, it doesn't mean much to you, but there's a carpet cleaning company.
Okay.
That George Costanza, little guy.
Okay.
He's always trying to be included. So he thinks if
I maybe watch two halves.
You should watch
programs
this
of Seinfeld.
Watch this, but he thinks so one of his friends said, well, he joined this group.
Yeah.
And this group is really, this carpet cleaning is a front for this
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
So if you just have the carpet cleaning come over, they'll recruit you into this group.
Yeah.
Like Masons or whatever the group was.
Yeah.
And so when you told me that for some reason that Seinfeld episode is always stuck in my mind. So if I want to be part of this Oak Pack little mystery group, the first thing I got to do is have Charlie come over and clean my windows, and then he'll invite me and get me into this cult, this group, this Oak Pack group.
So many people are shocked at what a broad range of issues I have some knowledge of. Okay.
Well, yeah.
And I like to say I'm 2 miles wide and an inch deep.
Right.
But the reality is I used to listen to a program, Marlon Maddox's Point of View.
Right. Yeah.
He was on daily, and while I was washing windows, I could have my earphones on.
Okay. Yeah.
Some people pay for their college education. I actually get paid while I got my college education, to be honest with you.
Well,
and that's how, and see, now Marlon, his radio program is different. Today's programs are all event driven. Whatever's happening in the news, that's what
right.
His was issue driven 4 days a week. So whether you wanted to talk about abortion or money, the Federal Reserve, whatever it might be, he would have an expert on, maybe world-class expert, maybe written books. I bought over 1,000 tapes of his programs. I would listen to them over and over again. I would buy books and things like that.
Cassette tapes, right?
Yeah, cassette tapes, yes.
People, they don't know what that is.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
But it's called, Google it. It's called a cassette tape. Right?
Yes. And so that's how I developed such a broad understanding of issues. I've heard some expertise on every issue out there.
Well,
and then finally he got to where Fridays was event driven, and now everything's event driven.
everything is. Yeah. And so yeah. But I was going to touch, you mentioned the law and what's proper. So this it's really weird. I just made a post on Facebook a little bit ago about, they grew the budget this year, largest budget in state history, but budgets increase. But some of the crud they put in there is, and they grew it almost the same percentage as required to trigger a tax cut. They grew at 1.35%, and you have to have a 1.25% of growth to trigger a tax cut. I don't know if those two are related or not, but it seems coincidental. Yeah. But a couple of items they put in there is free books for everybody. It's a Dolly Parton. It's the weirdest thing. So, but it's not even income driven. Like let's say you're a liberal and you're a soft-hearted liberal. Yeah. Oh, these poor kids don't have books because the library's 2 blocks further than they can walk, or whatever the hell the reason is. So we're just going to send. No, it's not even income related. They're sending every kid. Yeah. You know what I will do with a book that comes in the mail to my kid? It's going to go right in the trash unless I went in the store and picked it out. I mean, that's the dumbest thing. Yeah. They're spending millions of dollars. Yeah. Of our money, of the people's money, for nothing. And then another one is they're actually creating their own pharmaceutical company. Yeah. They're investing supposedly to bring down the price of insulin. It's all a joke. It's whoever wants to get free money, go line up at the Capitol because they're doling it out like candy. If you want a new building, if you want a new this, whatever, just line up.
I tell people,
campground, line up.
Politics is civilized warfare.
Yeah,
in
that's true.
Many countries, you change leadership through coups, assassination, revolutions, and things. We chose to use the ballot box here. Yep, but don't think it's not warfare, because in the federal government, we redistribute about $7 trillion a year. Yeah. State government, however many billion it is. And so there are people that want to get in on that money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so they go to almost any length other than murdering somebody.
That's correct.
And I won't say that that's never even occurred. It has
bribery
happened
is definitely legal bribery, but it's bribery.
Yeah.
Yeah. The canoe thing. I mean, you look at the list of these failed companies that get free money. Yeah, because when you're working on free money, you probably don't care if you fail or not. But so you want to talk about the legislature now. I mean, to be honest with you, you might talk about the House. This show talks mainly about the Senate because I really don't know. I actually listened to Kyle Hilbert the other day speak. I actually agreed with a lot of what he said, so I don't know anything about it.
You know, both Kyle and Paxton are new this year.
Yes, new, yeah.
And previously when you
I tried to give him a pass. I really did.
Well, previously when you had Greg Treat and Charles McCall, McCall was the better of the two.
I would agree with that. Now, by a long way.
Now it is Paxton is by far the worst of the two.
That's what it seems like. And I really liked Lonnie when I served. I really tried to give him, but to punish and persecute people. You know, you mentioned Treat. The part that bothers me, and it should bother him, is, and I've said this before, is you look at Nathan Dom. I don't want to use myself. I'm not the best person in the world, but Nathan is one of the best people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He's just a great person, good Christian. He is foundational to the core. And Treat took a joy. He found entertainment in a man that worked so hard to get there, had good ideas. And I wouldn't vote for all his ideas, and I'm sure Treat wouldn't either. But how can a Christian find joy in persecuting, humiliating, and punishing somebody that's such a good person? That I will never understand that. I think Peter might have a couple of questions about that if he makes it that far. But I really have concerns about that.
I'll just say this. You know, current former Senator Josh Brecheen and Greg Treat were both aged to Tom Coburn at the same time.
Yeah, Tom Coburn's a good man. Two different results.
Yes. And Treat went to the dark side.
He did,
and he just became lousy. And by the time it was all over, with.
You know, and he's making money. I don't ever begrudge people for making money. Go be successful, but that doesn't erase that. And so life is bigger than that. I mean, it's bigger than that. It's how you treat your fellow man through life that's most important. But anyway,
let's look at the Senate.
Let's look at the Senate. Okay, look at the Senate. We have a leadership that, to me, to me, the answer was simple: just be fair and nice to people. How is that so difficult, Charlie? I don't understand that. How that concept is so difficult.
So last year in the caucus, the vote was 20-19.
Yeah, it was one
for
vote.
Lonnie Paxton.
Right.
We had one open seat, and Senator Logan now holds that. And he's a supporter of David Bullard. Now, I will tell you right now, in my opinion, our state Senate is the most conservative it's ever been right now.
It has a lot of conservative members that get the shaft every day, but yes, it has a lot of conservative members. It's the most
conservative it's ever been. Yeah. And so we've got about 7 seats, 7, maybe 8 seats right now. That if we win half of those,
so 7 seats. We have seven incumbents challenged, but we also have 3 open seats.
Yes.
Let's talk about the open seats.
So, and I wish I brought my stuff here.
I kind of know what's going on in some of those seats.
But let's
because we have
let's say there's 8 or 9 seats that
there we go. I think we have 10.
Okay.
Counting the 7 incumbents that are challenged and the 3 open seats.
So if we win half of those,
right,
not only will our Senate even be more conservative than it is now, but here's the important thing. If we can get David Bullard elected as the next president pro tem, I think it kicks it up even more because David Bullard will be the most conservative president pro tem we've ever had.
Well, on top of that, David, good friend of mine, he's a strong Christian man. He's a fair and good individual.
Yes.
But he needs, of course, to be wise as a serpent. We'll talk about that offline.
But here's what I believe. If we can get another 5 really staunch conservatives
Some good
to go with what's there already.
Right.
And Bullard is the leader. I think there's a possibility that we will have half of our legislature that will be immune from the corrupting influences of the tall building crowd. It's the tall building crowd that pressures your.
They'll get a lot of their stuff, Charlie, because you and I
They're
agree.
good stuff they'll get.
They'll get their good
They're
stuff.
good stuff they'll get.
So
but the bad
let's don't
stuff
scare
they
them.
want.
We don't want to spend another $10 million between now and June 16th. To be honest with you,
Edit this out, okay?
edit. No, but I mean, actually, I would just say, that a lot they're going to get their stuff done.
Yeah.
Now they may not get as many incentives, but a lot of those incentives are already there. We've gotten rid of some of the bad ones, even in. So the people that come in, instead of saying, this is for the chamber crowd, if you will, conservatives. I don't know why. Because I think of it as common sense. I mean, let's take. We talked about JT earlier, running for superintendent, James Taylor, great man, great guy. I've stayed out of endorsing candidates, but he's a good friend of mine, so I hope he wins. But one of his opponents, I served with in the Senate, Adam Pugh, who started off pretty normal, but I don't know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I introduced a bill to take pornography out of public school libraries. Very simple thing, very common sense thing. And he debated against it, was the only Republican to vote against it, called it big government while he's running the biggest school choice bill in the nation that same session. And he's run bills to force schools to do all sorts of things. It's his common sense measure. And then this year, of course, he votes for a measure by Warren Hamilton that limits porn in schools.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but there was trickery done to basically keep that bill from going through.
So, but I mean, what happens to people like that come in? They do all the mailers, because we're talking about people running today. So I'm using somebody as a bad example. So somebody like that, I guarantee you, Pew put on his literature that he's conservative, that he's for children, that he's not for getting a millstone tied around his neck. He's for children. He's for this. But then he goes in there and does that.
So, Rob,
what happens to these people?
I've been kind of famous for my infamous Charlie's picks.
Okay.
Yeah. Where I would make picks of who I thought should win, and why. I'll write a little blurb about why I think they should win. And when it comes to state superintendent, I'm endorsing Dr. James Taylor. And in that, I suggested that Adam Pugh is little more than a whore to the education industry, and it would be horrible for Oklahoma if he became, because all Adam Pugh knows to do is throw more money at education. We've been doing that for the last 4 decades, and what has it got us?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't help.
It doesn't help at all. And and we're given $2,000 a year wage increases to every teacher in the state of Oklahoma. I think that's $100 million, if I'm not mistaken, maybe $200 million.
I don't remember.
And it's throwing good money after bad. It won't make one bit of difference. And one of the biggest rackets.
The hours in classroom, I think, might help a little bit.
It might help.
And I forget. I think
I'm
Lonnie
not
might have
opposed
run
to that. Yeah.
I don't know if Lonnie or Adam ran that one, but that one I like.
But here's the thing. The unions have figured out a way to buy loyalty from the teachers by giving them more money.
Right. Here's associations, these benefits and stuff. Yeah.
And here's how they do that. They work one state against another.
Oh yeah.
So when one goes up, then they go and the other ones say, if we don't raise ours, all the good teachers will leave Oklahoma and go there.
Right.
And so they're just ratcheting up all over everywhere,
right.
and
it's unsustainable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And teachers, I can tell you this: 1970. Teachers made very little in Oklahoma. They were underpaid. And the people who paid their salary, the citizens, always made more than the teachers. By 1980, it was about even. Today, the average salary of a teacher is probably close to $15,000 to $20,000 a year more than the people that pay their their salaries.
Well,
so it just shows how
it's a great. It's really. It needs to go back to be a servant's position, a great job that has summers. It has its perks, and so I don't. It shouldn't always be about money. I mean, it's taxpayer dollars. We got to be frugal with that. But they think it's because we, like with the walkout, that we somehow don't respect or like, and that has nothing to do with it. It's a servant's position. That's
you're calling the walkout the strike.
The strike.
Oh, it's illegal to go on strike. So that's why it was called a walkout.
Is that why it's called?
Back in 2018.
So back to the race. So we have 3 open seats. Then we have 7 incumbents that are challenged. I know one's up in your area.
Yeah, 2.
Oh, 2's in the Senate. There's 2.
Grant Green is my personal.
I was thinking of Chuck Hall, but
I call him Grant Green the Crook.
Grant Green. Okay.
I'll explain why in a minute.
Okay.
Here. And so the majority of our county is under Chuck Hall. And
Logan County. Okay. But you live in the Grant Green side of
yes.
Logan County?
So basically south of 105, north of Waterloo, and east of I-35. That's Grant Green's.
Okay.
That's the part. All the rest of the county is Chuck Hall. Anywhere else in the county. And and
it just happens that both of those guys are up this cycle.
Yes, that's correct. And so 4 years ago, I supported Jeff McComas against Grant Green.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it was how many? There was like 4 or 5 candidates.
There were 4.
Oh, 4. Okay.
There were 4, and Jamie Mullins was one. That's half brother to Mark Wayne.
That's
Mullins.
right. I recall. Yeah.
And then you had Grant, and you had Robert Trimble.
Okay.
Who's running this time?
That's right. Yeah.
Now here's the difference.
Robert Trimble is
4
great
years
guy,
ago. Robert didn't hire a consultant, and he didn't knock doors.
Okay.
This time he has a consultant, and this time he has knocked doors very intelligently. And 4 years ago, Grant Green, the crook, didn't have a record. Okay.
Right.
Now here's why I call him a crook.
Be easy.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
This wouldn't be the first podcast I've said this on. Okay. But he and his brother bought green propane from their father.
Okay.
And they were operating that as a partnership. Well, Grant has a gambling problem, and he embezzled $100,000 from that.
Okay.
And when his brother found out, he went to him and he said, Grant, whether you buy me out or I buy you out, that's yet to be determined. But as far as you and I are concerned, we're done.
I had heard his brother endorse one of his opponents the first time.
He endorsed Jeff McComas.
Oh, Jeff McComas.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what happened was...
I'm sorry, I got to go back to that. So your own brother...
Yeah.
I can't imagine my brother, who's a prince of a guy.
Well,
I love my
what
brother.
happened is...
I can't imagine him, even if I did do something wrong to him. That must have been really wrong.
Grant ended up buying his brother out. I'm sure he made him whole for that $100,000.
But that scar is so bad.
That's why I call him the crook, okay? But now he's got a record.
Right,
and,
a voting record.
A voting record. So on the Oklahoma Constitution newspaper's conservative index, and that's the only entity in the state that ranks our legislators on a conservative and liberal basis.
Right.
Probably the highest you ever got was an 80. Your wife is 100 after the first year.
You told me when I started that I got a 20-point, kind of like Bryce DeChambeau gives his opponents. I thought you were going to do that, Rob. I'm going to give you 20 strokes up front, so that means I got 100.
So,
I ran. By the way, I blame it all on Randy Bass and John Sparks.
Okay, there you go. Anyway, Grant's lifetime average after 3 years is a 60. Okay,
I think that's generous.
You ready? Well, that's because he scored an 80 on this year's index.
He worked hard this year,
or it would have been even much harder. And but what was interesting is there's 40 Republicans in the state Senate. Only 5 have a lower score than Grant. So not only, it just shows how liberal he is. Let's put it that way.
Well, I would call it, and this isn't just throwing Grant under the bus, because I see these guys come in. Because I met with him when I was running for pro tem against Treat. And this was in the middle of his campaign. Boy, he talked tough. Mm-hmm. He's a big, huge guy, but he talks so tough. And I thought, well, this guy might be good. I was kind of hoping the Jeff guy. I mean, not hoping. You watch it from afar when it's so far away. But I was like, I met the Jeff guy. He seemed guy. But I met with the Grant.
Yeah.
Talked tough, blah, blah, blah. gets in there like a wet noodle. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why a type A personality that's tough, willing to allegedly steal from his brother.
I'm not so sure he's a type A.
But what I'm saying is I don't think it's liberal. I think it's weak. I think it's weakness. You don't have any courage.
But he shows up as a liberal.
Yeah, of course, on a score.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I think it's weakness. You just do whatever leadership tells you.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. He didn't want to run. A group came to him wanting to run. He said no.
Right.
They went out and they tried to find someone else, and they couldn't find him. And they came back to him.
Right.
And he said, "We really need you to run for this." And he said, "Well, I don't like the idea of constituent services, and I don't know what the issues are." And he said, "Don't worry, we'll tell you how to vote." And
that's worked out well for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so. Now, this is just my opinion here. I'm not going to name any names. But this is largely the same Senate district I ran for back in 1990. And I believe there's a lot of corruption in Lincoln County.
Okay.
There's some very powerful people there. And in the House, you had, what was his name, got defeated last year. I'm trying to think of his name.
Oh, the one that Jim Shaw beat?
Yes.
The appropriations chair?
Yes.
Wallace.
Yeah. I think that the people that I think personally, I think Wallace served their purposes. And they knew he was on the way to terming out, and they needed someone else that could keep their purposes going. So that's why they got Grant Green to run for that. So that's who was behind getting him to run.
And so I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who will win that. It's closer to you than it is me. But I'll tell you this: it just so happens that Mr. Trimble, Robert Trimble, has a business right by my house, so I know him. I've known him for quite some time. He is a very, very good man.
Yes.
So I don't know Grant that well. I know how he's done since he's been in there. But as far as a senator,
Robert owns Noah's
Amish Furniture Store, which is a phenomenal place. If you haven't gone in, you should go in.
Yeah.
If you don't buy a piece of furniture, buy the cinnamon rolls. Take my advice.
They're delicious.
They're amazing. They're amazing.
They're wonderful.
I don't know who makes them. If it's the Amish,
they're Amish made.
Amish fairies or whatever make them, but they're phenomenal. But anyway, the furniture is crazy good. But anyway, Robert's a really good man. So I know if he were to win and beat the incumbent, that I would think he will. I think he would stay strong. I don't think he would be one of those people that put it on his flyers and don't live it.
4 years ago, he won Logan County. I don't mean he. Jeff McComas won Logan County.
Okay.
And he won Seminole County. It was very close in Seminole. Pretty good difference in Logan County. Because of my serving as a county commissioner for a year and a half, and knowing so many friends that have moved into the county weren't here last time, I've told Robert I believe that I can increase the number of votes that Jeff got by 50%. There are a lot of people that appreciated very much the things that I did for them as a county commissioner, and I think they'll be amenable to what I have to share in that. Well, and Robert has worked very hard. He's knocked doors, and I think he will win that race.
I think if he wins, I think,
and he will be a David Bullard supporter.
I don't like to assume too much, but I would assume that he probably wouldn't. He probably watches like a lot of people have the leadership from afar and says, "I don't want to serve in that mess." And so even somebody that's not as conservative as Robert Trimble would probably say, "You know what? I'm not gonna. You're not gonna put a leash around my neck and lead me around." So so we have that race. You said there's another one in your county.
So we have another one, and that is our budget director in the Senate, Chuck Hall, and
he's a banker.
He's a banker. He lives in Perry, and
which is is that the far north of that district?
No, it actually goes all the way up to Cleveland. Almost.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah, Cleveland, Oklahoma, and so would be maybe not much further north, but quite a bit east of Perry.
Okay.
And so Anyway, Mark Lamar is the one running for that. Mark is a pastor.
I'd heard that he's a pastor.
Yeah, he's a pastor of Assembly of God Church in Crescent. I've been there about 35 years.
Okay.
And he's well known in the Crescent area. And I asked him why he chose to run for the Senate seat rather than that House seat that was occupied by John Pfeiffer.
Who's running for a state seat, right?
He's running for a state seat. He's termed out there. And he said, well, I'd like to meet with you and tell you why. So we had lunch one day. And not only is he well known in Crescent, he grew up in Guthrie. He knows many people in Guthrie.
And that's the biggest community in that district,
That's the biggest community in the district. And he has a lot of relatives over in the area that I mentioned a minute ago, Cleveland area. And he has a lot of contacts in Hennessy.
Okay.
And he has less contacts in Kingfisher. But the growth, the center of that is Guthrie and to the southeast of Guthrie. Okay. That's where the rapid growth is. And he started knocking doors last year, probably August of last year. And he's already been through the list of likely voters once, and he's going back through it again. If he can get a reasonable amount of money, he's been so well received on the doorstep. He's another one that's taken a pledge not to take any lobbyist money. That's really resonating with voters. He won't take.
What about OPAC money?
Well, OPAC doesn't have money for him anymore.
But when you start your new PAC.
Yeah. So here now, Jason Murphy, Jason would not take money from a lobbyist or PAC that employed a lobbyist.
Okay.
And but he would take money from us because we didn't have a lobbyist and we weren't a special, we were a general interest. So he would take money from us. And whether or not Mark would do that, I have no idea. But he's taken his pledge not to take.
Well,
any gifts or anything.
In this day and time, I appreciate the pledge. Mm-hmm. But here's my philosophy. I think you probably share this. If you can't take money and vote no, you have no business being in the legislature. And when I say money, it's not just cash money.
Yeah.
It's dinners.
It's gifts.
It's gifts. It's trips.
Yeah.
And so I see these people come in that supposed conservatives. They go on a trip to Florida to learn about some new policy, and they come back saying, "Oh, I'm for that policy." And I'm like, "Well, before you left, you were against the policy."
Robert Trimble had one of the strongest convictions about taking contributions from lobbyists.
Oh,
of anyone that I
He's
had
mentioned
seen.
it to me, and I admire that.
Yeah, and he has the finances to self-finance his campaign.
Right.
But anyway. Finally, we got a mailer that says that on there, and I hope there's a push card by now that says that on there, because that resonates with people.
I think so. I think
it really
does.
In
today's environment,
yes.
Absolutely, because they see politics, whether it's here or in D.C., and they see politicians that appear, I would say likely are, controlled by the people that give them money. And it's a sad testimony because the money isn't even to them.
Yeah.
But of course, on the federal level, they end up with a lot of new houses. But anyway, technically, it's not for them; it's for some stupid campaign.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So
you have Lamar there, and then you said there's 7. So what's the other 5? Where are those at?
So I wish I had my stuff here.
I think I know. I'll give them to you. And
so
you can
Butler, there's a fellow named Butler that's running in Western.
That's an open seat, though.
It's an open seat.
That's in Kingfisher.
Yes.
And then you have I think a pretty strong conservative running in Altus, but in Buchanan's what I've been told, but I don't know where
it's Elk City and maybe others.
Yeah. Now one of the candidates
I'm supporting him
in Buchanan. So
yes.
I did you see the gentleman died? And my wife had met him.
Yeah.
And that was such a crazy, horrible deal. I met one of his friends the other day in Noble, and they think there's funny business involved.
I think they think it's a homicide.
I think, I haven't seen anything on that. But
it's still under investigation right now. I haven't heard anything recently on it.
Yeah, but the Clintons aren't here, so I don't know. But that's horrible. So then you have that, and then you go east. You got Senator Woods, it's in far eastern Oklahoma. I hear he's got an opponent.
Yeah.
And Tom.
His opponent, Tom Woods. His opponent is Freddie. I wish I had my list
Smith.
with me.
I think it's Kenny Smith. Yeah.
Kenny Smith. That's it. And I'm raising money for him.
Okay, so you're endorsing him as well over Tom Woods.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you get.
I've never met him
Shane.
or know anything about him.
I've talked to him on the phone.
Okay.
He's another one taking the pledge. No.
Okay.
And then you've got up and running against Coleman. Terrazzo, I believe is his name.
Oh, Bill
Another
Coleman's up this time as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's another one that's taking the pledge to take no money from.
Right. I hear he's got some money for self-funding.
He has enough for himself there.
Because you have to have mailers. If you don't have mailers, you can't win in this day and time.
And then we have running against here in Midwest City. We have a lady that's a pastor's wife. I'm raising money for her.
That's Brenda Stanley.
Yeah, so running against Brenda Stanley.
Okay, so Brenda Stanley last time had an opponent, and I have to give Brenda some credit. She did vote for me for pro tem, which I appreciate. But since then, I understand that her voting has changed quite a bit, which has given an opening for a conservative person to challenge. Right.
So, and I think that's a viable. I'm raising money for that for that lady, and.
One of the open sheets, Shane Jett, I hear he's got a strong conservative, and Justin that's running.
So I'll tell you a funny story here. I have a friend that one of those running for that seat had come by.
Currently running now. Ron Sharp, probably.
No. I have a friend.
Okay.
That this guy came to his house.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And both of them have military background.
Okay.
And he wanted me to talk with this guy. So he gives my phone number. Okay. So I call him up and I'm talking with him. And he said a couple of people urging me to run. I said, well, who were the people? Well, he was evasive. He wouldn't tell me.
Okay.
And twice I asked him. He wouldn't tell me. So the next thing I asked is, I said, well, when you get in there, you think you'll vote for Lonnie Paxton for President Pro Tem? He said, yeah, I've looked at him. I think he's the best. Now let me just say
something. Probably also
something.
asked you to run, man.
Let me say something. One of our podcasts, we had Shane Jett on with his 16-year-old daughter. And during that podcast, I asked Shane a question, and Shane said, how controversial do you want me to get? I said, buddy, just pull the curtain back and let us take a look. Yeah. And I saw how corrupt Lonnie Paxton is.
Yeah, I don't know about that side, but I know that from just a leadership point of view, I don't understand it. Charlie, I'd say if I was serving in that, I would want to fire my boss because he's not even their boss, actually. He's supposed to be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
I mean, you hire him, you vote for him to help you.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be helping. Like Brian Bingman and Mike Schultz, I mean, did they agree with everything we did? No. But I know part of their mission was whether I like them or not, they represent 100,000 people, I'm going to help them get a win.
Yeah.
Maybe not on this issue because I don't agree.
Yeah.
That's their job. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And you put people in positions of power like chairmanships that also have that servant's heart that says, you know what, Shane, Senator Jett, I don't agree with you on this idea over here, but how about if I hear this bill for you over here? That's how I worked as a chair for many years. And I don't understand how that concept is so difficult for Lonnie or whoever else.
But anyway,
just be fair.
So I made my friend watch our podcast with Shane.
That talked about the guy you spoke with?
Yeah. Okay. And then I called him up and I said, did you see that? And he said, yeah, I sure did. Well, your friend told me that's who he was going to support. And he said, oh, we can't have that.
Oh, yeah.
So now my friend is going to vote for
Justin Wood, probably.
Justin Wood.
Yeah.
And he said, I've got to go back and tell all my other friends that I made a mistake with this other fella. And the one.
Did we ever find out who asked him to run?
No, I don't know. He never would tell me.
That's an interesting question. I'd like to know.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Lonnie Paxton.
I wonder if it might have been. But, okay. So I think my understanding is Justin, who I really like. I served with him for a short time when he was in the House.
Yeah.
I like him. He was very young then.
Yeah.
He seems so much more mature now.
Yep.
I ran into him a couple of times, and I like the guy.
When Shane Jett was in the House, he won our Rhino of the Year award one time, and he was nominated for it every year. And so when he ran for the Senate this first time, in my Charlie's Picks, I warn people, this is a liberal guy. Well, he wins, and he comes to an Oak Pack meeting shortly after he won, and he's standing behind me, taps me on my back, and I turn around, I look at him, and I realize who it was, and he said, I want you to know I'm not that stupid young kid I was when I was in the House. He said, I'm a true conservative now. And boy, has he proven it.
He's a good guy.
Fantastic.
He's a good man.
He's
and his family is just on, and his kids. I mean, they're just stellar people, good people. And again, I go back to this whole
we had his
fairness thing.
16-year-old daughter on the program with him when he was there that day. And
but the thing is I go back to the whole. You get a personality like Shane Jett. You try to shove him in a bottle. What do you think is going to happen? That bottle's going to bust. And I don't know why a leader. Even if it's in the private sector, why would you shove somebody like that in a bottle and cram the cork in and think you're going to get good results? Just treat them fairly. You're going to have some squabbles even then. But that's a concept that I don't understand why politicians, because they've never led well in the private sector. They never had to lead a team of hundreds or thousands of people. And so they just don't understand it. But anyway, so we've
had Marty Quinn on. Okay.
Oh, Marty's amazing. He's phenomenal guy.
Which, by the way, he's running for insurance.
And I said I don't endorse candidates. Of course, I endorse Marty. Marty is phenomenal. He will make. I don't know what conservatism. How much the insurance commissioner gets into that, but if it is an issue, he will land on the conservative side.
Well, when I've done my Charlie's Picks on all statewide candidates already, except for I'm not releasing governor yet, okay? Because next Monday we have Chip Keating on. Okay. He'll be in studio. Chip actually lives in Logan County. He lives about 9 miles east of me.
And I love Frank. I've known Frank for years. He's always been gracious and kind to me, and I like Chip.
And so we have Chip on in studio, and then we have Charles McCall on Wednesday.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that'll be in studio or if it'll be Zoom. And then the next Monday we'll have Mike Mazie on,
who I served with. Mike's a phenomenal guy.
And he will be in on that Monday. And so I'm not going to name who I.
So did you pick somebody in lieutenant governor yet?
Oh yeah.
Who'd you pick there?
I picked T.W.
T.W.
Shannon, and then John Eccles for state's attorney general.
So on lieutenant governor, of course, I love T.W. I served with him for some time. Very conservative speaker, but JJ's also a good friend. I'm not endorsing anybody. JJ's a good friend of mine, and I just.
We interviewed JJ.
I just wonder, though, from an entertainment perspective, did you ever look at it from that perspective? Because JJ will jump in the.
Well,
I just picture him jumping in the Senate chair and saying, "You guys, you're going to hit the gavel."
JJ's funny. Okay, he's hilarious. He says there's 3 kind of dogs in this race. There's show dogs, there's porch dogs, and there's a bulldog. He's the bulldog. Okay. Yeah. But really and truly, when he says show dog, he's talking about TW.
Yeah.
But the biggest show dog in it is actually JJ.
He's a mess.
He's the most hilarious,
He's a mess.
But when
that'll be a close run. But I think TW probably will win it in the runoff. I don't know if he'll win it outright.
No, I think he'll win it outright.
You think so? With 5, I think there's 5 folks in there. It'll be tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with Trump's endorsement, I think.
It's a good chance. I think he'll make a good lieutenant governor.
But JJ does have one chance.
Really?
Yeah. If TW drops dead of a heart attack, I think JJ will be the lieutenant governor.
Well,
but that's the only chance he's got.
He's a mess. I enjoyed serving with him. I have to give JJ credit. I mean, he was tough on some bills we ran together.
If you watched our program, I had more fun with him than anyone I've had on the program. And it was a good show. And Aya Kelly is one of my partners.
Okay, on the show.
Which
we haven't plugged that. I'll do a mini plug now. It's ABC's.
The ABCs of Politics and Culture. Okay. So Aya Kelly, you know her.
Yeah.
Bob Donahue,
not well, but
you know him.
Oh yeah.
And I'm the C, Charlie Meadows.
Okay.
And
so I'll get a link from you, and when we post this podcast, we'll put a link in there.
Okay. And anyway, Aya is very close to JJ, so kind of out of respect for her, We've had him on. I have not been able to get a hold of TW to get him on yet.
Okay.
But if I have to wait until the big fish fry down in Duncan, I'll get him there. as well as I've got calls into him. He just hasn't responded. And then also Kevin Hearn, who will be our next senator.
Yes, he will.
I want him on the program. And this is kind of interesting. The New American Magazine has what they call the Freedom Index, and it ranks people on how they vote according to the Constitution. So the most recent index that came out was probably 2-3 months ago.
And this is on the national level. Yeah.
This is on the national level. And Josh Burkeen, U.S. Representative Josh Burkeen, had about a 95.
Oh, wow.
And U.S. Representative Kevin Hearn had about an 85. And then you get down to our 3 lifers. Our lifers are Tom Cole, Frank Lucas, and now Stephanie Bice. Stephanie had a 63. Lucas and Cole had 60s. And then you drop down to James Langford. He had about a 57.
Really? Okay.
And then you drop down to Mark Wayne Mullen at a 47.
Really?
Mark Wayne is our most liberal, according to the Constitution, was the most liberal one that we have in Oklahoma.
Well, Kevin Hearn will raise that.
So this is what I'm saying. So Kevin Hearn will be a more conservative senator than Mark Wayne Mullen will be.
I've always appreciated Mark Wayne's fight. I mean, I do.
Yeah. No, I like.
So some
and
things.
he's in a perfect place right now.
I think so. I think it's a good spot for him. I
Yeah.
think he both physically and politically, he's a fighter.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't agree with the position, which is why he's got the low rating, probably because maybe he's fighting for some issues that we don't all agree on. But man, when he tackles something I agree with, and I see him fight, whether it's transgender or some of these crazy things, I like that.
My pastor's daughter-in-law is his niece.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I went up to her one time about a year ago, and I said, "You know where the most dangerous place in Washington is?" And she said, "No." I said, "It's between a camera and Mark Wayne Mullen. Don't get between them, because he's going to be rushing to that camera."
He's a good wrestler, so he might just listen. Well,
but anyway,
he's kind of a little bit like JJ anyway. He's a bit of a mess.
Yeah. But so we're going to see Jackson Lawmeyer win that House race.
Looks like it. Before that endorsement came out, I really didn't think that he would win that. And,
I did.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I don't know the area, and I assume Jackson has a lot more contacts up there.
Let me tell you why. 3.5 years ago, he formed an organization called Pastors for Trump.
I saw that, yeah.
And that grew. His church has grown enormously.
Okay.
And he's had literally every member of the Trump family in his church speaking at one time or another.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was that huge connection there, and I felt sure he would get that.
So I didn't know about that part.
But this is what I called Josh Burkeen. And I said, "Josh, he's going to win this. I'd urge you to reach out to him and talk with him and see if he's a candidate for the Freedom Caucus."
Oh yeah.
And I think he will be conservative enough to be a member of the Freedom Caucus. This is interesting.
You probably need to get in on that track right when you come in,
right?
Because they're pretty picky.
Right. And here's the deal: in Washington, the Freedom. I don't even know if there's any senators in the Freedom Caucus.
I think they're all anonymous, whoever they are.
Yeah. But here in Oklahoma, the majority of them are senators. There's a minority of House of Representatives that are
you're talking about the two bodies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have some rock star senators in the Freedom Caucus.
Absolutely.
Not the Lisa, which is Lisa. I mean, but you have. I mean, I don't want to out it because since I'm Freedom Caucus, I know of the anonymous members. So I'm not going to say everybody, but I'm going to list a few.
Yeah.
You got Shane Jett. Who's a rock star. You have Dusty Devers.
Yep.
You have Lisa Standridge. You have Kendall Sacchieri down South Part. She's a rock star. You have Randy Grellner. Rock star from Stillwater. Julie McIntosh.
Cushing, but that's okay.
Cushing. Okay. Then you have Julie McIntosh. Who am I missing of the public ones?
There's about 8 or 9 of them that are public on it now. There's quite a few.
I'll just tell you, in the Senate, I'll leave leadership guessing a little bit. There's about 5 or 6 anonymous. Good luck.
Yeah.
And you know what? I get criticized. I was just at a meeting the other day. When I said that, they were critical. And I said, okay, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have somebody voting correctly Or would you rather have somebody?
Senator Burns is another one.
Is he public?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
it's
he wasn't.
prevalent.
He wasn't last time
Yeah,
I talked to him.
he is now.
Oh, yes. Okay, good for him.
Yeah.
George is a courageous guy. I love
Yeah.
George.
He's smart too.
He was anonymous, in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, in the Senate, I mean, the House, they even with anonymous members, they probably have 5 or 10 maybe. But in the Senate, in a caucus of 40, like 15.
Yeah.
And it's like that's huge. And some of these guys, and some of the ones that aren't in it. And I'll throw David Bullard under the bus. Some of the ones that aren't in it are still really good conservative members. Yeah. And so, it doesn't mean they're bad members just because they're not. But
I'll tell you something. This liberal rag we have here called the Oklahoman. 2 times over the last year and a half, there's been articles in that paper that have asked the question: is there room for moderates in the Republican Party any longer? Yeah. They're bemoaning how conservative that this state is becoming.
That's untrue.
Well,
moderates run both chambers.
Well, but they see a trend moving that way.
Right, moving back.
Yes.
It's moving back to the 2006 to 2010 days and 2016 days.
And so I don't know if you know this. Last year, we were the 10th fastest growing state in the union.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
And for the first time ever, last year, more people moved from Texas to Oklahoma than Oklahoma to Texas.
Really? I didn't know that.
And I've been in. I know this from several different purposes. We have a massive number of people moving here from California and Oregon, Washington. New York,
yes, no doubt.
But these aren't the liberals that were moving here 10 years ago. These are the conservative Christians.
These are the Fresno conservatives. I mean, they may be coming from San Francisco, but they're the Fresno conservatives.
They're coming from all over the state.
Yeah.
And they're conservatives. They are sick and tired of the overtaxation, the overregulation, and the anti-Christian bias and things like that. And so these are the right kind of people.
I think so. The ones I've met, I just there's a lady that helped Lisa a lot, and actually ended up running for office herself, and unfortunately didn't get there. But she's from, I believe, California. But I mean, they're actually more conservative because they've had a taste of how horrible leftist policies are.
Yeah.
And California is such an incredible state. You know this. You live there. I mean, it's incredible. There's everything you could possibly want.
Ronald Reagan was governor when I lived there.
Except for sane leadership. It has everything that you could possibly want. Yeah. Now they're going to do this wealth tax. They're going to chase off the biggest part of their tax base. Yeah. They're that dumb.
Can you imagine when we do the census next time? And if we have a president that's a Republican and we keep it fair, we will pick up so many seats it's not even funny. Florida didn't get near or Texas as many as they should have last time.
That's correct, because they're counting illegal aliens. They're counting people that are transient that are here and there. They're counting them twice. It's the census is about as broken as it can be right now, and I think they're trying to fix it, but it'll take some time. So we've covered a lot of stuff, Charlie. We covered that. I think we covered most of the like Don Spencer's got a name for the 7. I think he calls it the Swamp 7. I think we covered the Swamp 7. We covered.
I hope not.
And then we covered.
I thought he called it the Magnificent 7.
No. But I think it's going to be an interesting year, and thank you for being active. And I think taking a break with your family, going to Alaska is okay. We'll give you a break.
It was great time.
But anything you need, let us know. Let me know. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me here. I've enjoyed it very much.
It's been fun. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
It was really awesome having Charlie Meadows on the podcast today. Now, this next section, it's not outtakes, it's not bloopers. I guess I'll call it bonus material, because Charlie and I just kept visiting, and really it's about the episodes in his podcast that he's done, along with a few other bits of conversation. So you can stop now if you want, but if you go on, then you'll hear a little bit more, and the audio is not so good at the beginning. but I fix it. And anyway, hope you enjoy that. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and hope to see here, or you see here again next time. Thanks all.
Well, we went on a lot of rabbit trails today, but hopefully what is interesting still.
Oh, yeah.
Here is the list of programs that we have. Let me just read it.
Oh, okay.
Our first one
When did y'all start?
was February 23rd.
Oh, see, I started a little bit before y'all, but
Okay.
I don't do as many shows.
And the very first one, it was just the three of us, our bios and what we hoped to accomplish.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then we had Ron McWhirter on about the Oklahoma Constitution.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Then we had a discussion about filling Senator Wallen's seat.
Oh,
With him leaving,
yeah.
it was a
Nathan
big
Dahm was listed.
big turmoil, and it's like pulling a pin on a hanger and throwing it up in the air as far as how it affected Oklahoma. And then we had Matthew Sullivan on. He's Pakistan,
Okay.
and he was born in a Christian home.
Okay.
He just turned 37
Okay.
and 36. I'm sorry.
So he went and lived in Pakistan and came back.
No, he still lives in Pakistan.
Oh, still lives. Okay.
And he has read the Quran 12 times.
Oh my gosh.
He knows it as well as he does the Bible, and he has personally led over 1,000 Muslims to the Lord.
Really? Wow.
He's led over 200 Hindus and a few atheists. And so we had him on, very interesting. Then we had taxes and why Oklahoma oil companies are moving to Texas.
Yeah. They're fleeing.
Yeah, and then we had Damon Devereux, our sheriff, on.
Okay.
Damon was invited to the State of the Union speech.
Really? Wow.
So about half the program was what he did, and I mean what he had to go through to get on the floor and things, and then the other half was his responsibility as the highest law enforcement officer in the county to stand up against the overreach of the federal government should it come in.
Oh, it will if it switches parties,
And
big time,
then-
especially related to immigration.
Then we had Jason Murphy on.
Okay.
And then we had Don Spencer with OK2A. And then we had Chad
Alexander.
Christensen and Laura
Sorry.
Beasley on.
Okay, don't know who's
They're
that.
with a group called In the Gap Ministries.
Okay, cool.
And what they realized is most children, by the time they're finished with grade school, they have developed some idea of God. So what they have done, they find a school district that will allow them to come in and hold an after-hour Bible study in grade schools. And they work with local pastors. And so maybe one pastor will come in one day, or maybe once a week.
We're still recording. If I decide, I might take some snippets out of this
Okay.
and tell people what
Okay.
you've got on. Okay, keep going.
And so they work to get these kids in these Bible studies. The teachers love it
Yeah.
because it builds character in their children, in these children's lives and things like that.
Okay.
And so this is a really interesting ministry. And then we had Lisa John Lou on, and she's running for labor commissioner.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And the reason, one of the main reasons we had her, because she's Iranian.
Okay.
And this is when the war had just started.
Oh, wow.
And so now she wasn't born there; her father was, and we talked about that, And then we have Dave Bond on with OCPA talking about 832.
Yeah.
And then we had a man named Stark Davis who is very concerned about our federal government, the runaway debt,
Okay.
and probably will run for maybe the next time he'll run for maybe Stephanie Bice's seat.
Okay.
And then Jake Merrick running for governor.
Oh, yeah.
Shane Jett and his daughter, Charles Key.
Oh, wow.
Charles has this petition that he's trying to do.
Is that the
right
one
now.
with the minimum number of bills heard or something like that? Okay.
Yes. Everybody would be guaranteed to have three bills. Yeah.
Is it is he at the signature gathering part, or where's he at?
Yeah.
Okay.
He does.
So he has
will.
90 days to gather.
Yeah. I'm not sure he's in that yet.
Oh,
but,
okay.
And then we had Matthew Sullivan on again.
Okay.
And Matthew stayed in our home for about 8 days.
I was going to say, you didn't do that one remote. He's here. Okay.
Yeah, he was here both times. And now he's back now, but he's coming back here if he can get a visa in October. But on this program, he explains jihad in America and the strategy the Muslims for taking over America. And then the other part is why so many Christians are converting to Islam.
Yeah.
And so that was that one. Then we had Kyle Lovelace on about polling.
Okay.
And then J.J. Humphreys. And then John Eccles. Then Brad Boyles, who's
What's
running
Brad running for?
Corporation Commission. And Kevin West, who's running for Labor Commissioner.
I saw that one pop up, yeah.
And then Monday we had Wayne Murphy on and us. Wayne is Jason Murphy's dad.
Oh, okay.
And it's in his backyard that we have our studio. And so we just wanted, he has his own podcast. He built this studio for himself.
Okay.
And I took in January, I took a couple there with Elam Ministries.
Okay.
And Elam Ministries is a ministry to the church in Iran. I
Okay.
don't know if you know that the church is growing faster in Iran than any nation in the world.
The Christian church.
Yeah,
Really?
the Church of Jesus. 25 to 30 years ago, estimated 10,000 believers. Today, estimated 2 million believers.
Really?
And
And they haven't killed them yet.
Well, some of them have been killed, but you know, and I'll tell you, this move of God is spilling out into Afghanistan, and very possibly the church is growing, is the second fastest country in the world that the church is growing in. Is there's a place where Afghanistan and Iran are together, and they're both Farsi speaking people.
Yeah.
And so, but here's why the church is growing so fast. Under the mullahs for so many years, people lost hope. Well, Jesus, the gospel is full of hope.
Provides hope, yes.
The main reason, more than anything else, is God is moving miraculously. He's healing people. People are having visions and dreams. And that's the biggest reason of all. And then the third reason is Elam Ministries is the group that the Lord has chosen to use to minister to the church. And so not only do they have, and that's the couple, Dan and Carmen Hale from Texas.
Okay.
They were here staying with us, and
how much time do they spend over there? And do they spend time physically over there?
No,
no.
no.
Okay.
Now, Carmen is originally from the Philippines, and she lived there for a while, but neither one of them could go into Iran. Now, they'll be able to go back when this all settles out,
Oh, they
you know.
couldn't now.
But Dan has never been there.
Okay.
And but what they do is they provide all types of literature for them,
Okay.
and not just handwritten. They have one of the first things they did is they did an updated modern version of the Bible in Farsi,
Okay.
and they have now distributed 3 million copies of the New Testament.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when they find someone that has a calling on their life, they take them out of the country. They give them the Old Testament also, and it's about a year seminary, and then they go back in as a pastor of a home church.
Oh.
Everything there is underground.
Yeah, it's home churches.
Everything is underground there, you know. But they have this thing called shofar. And so let's say the three of us here and say, I lead you to the Lord. Maybe I've only been a Christian 6 months, but I lead you to the Lord. Well, I'm more mature than you are, so it's my responsibility to disciple you. And then you lead this young lady to the Lord. Well, maybe you're young, but you know more than she does, so it's your responsibility. So they have this chain like that.
Okay.
And people, and then when you've met the Lord through a miracle, miraculous healing, or some other type of miracle, or a dream or vision, you're so gung-ho to serve God that you're willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of their believers that have
sure.
been put in prison and things like that, you know, for a period of time. It's dangerous to be a Christian in Iran, far more dangerous in Afghanistan.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But it's still growing, and so there's a lot of refugees in Turkey. Turkey doesn't mind you getting together. You can gather in large groups in Turkey as long as you don't invite Turks to come.
Oh.
But some of them come anyway,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, but Turkey is one of the places. There's a village in Turkey. They take kind of south central Turkey. They take people for this seminar, and the other place is London, England. That's where the headquarters is, you know. But anyway, we had them on at Wayne's, and that's when I saw the studio, and I said, hey, this is a lot better than where we started off, you know. And then so Wednesday will be Marty Quinn.
Oh, okay.
Now we shoot them both on Monday,
Oh, okay.
and one we release on Wednesday.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that way we only have to go once.
Right.
Now this Thursday,
Who do you have that does your post production, like your editing and all of that?
Bob.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to get a camera set up like this.
Yeah.
And we don't have that yet, but
Well, you'll need. I'll tell you right now, because I started with just that one.
yeah,
You'll need audio, because
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like the one of Nathan. I felt so bad because the audio just didn't do very well.
yeah.
And that camera was it has XLR connections in it.
Okay.
So I was using that for the main audio. It just doesn't do
Yeah.
as good a job. This
Yeah.
H6 does a lot better. And on the state question, I was going to mention, I'm the attorney on the defending the property tax when it got challenged.
Okay.
So I don't. Hopefully his won't get challenged, but
Mm-hmm.
win or lose, I'll have that experience under my belt. That's my first case ever as an attorney is to argue in front of the state Supreme Court.
Okay.
I did not. I got.
How'd you do?
No, I don't. The oral argument's June 2nd. I had to file the brief last Tuesday. I had to file the brief. I was hired on Friday, or I didn't know I'd have it till Friday. What happened was Calvi was going to be the attorney, but there was a schedule conflict, so I had to spend the weekend working with Kevin to get a brief ready. It had to be done Tuesday, and then Mike Reynolds and I spent the whole day together, which was fun. On Tuesday, getting all this crazy paperwork that law firms probably just snap their fingers and it's done. But I think we made a
That's
good
on their
argument.
Petition. They need 92,000 or
Well, no,
so
there's
signatures.
an attorney. Well, if that happens, but on the last day that you could do a legal challenge, McCampbell and his group, on behalf of, I'm sure
Every school district.
challenged it, saying that you can't. It's unconstitutional. We'll see how the court does. I think it's clearly constitutional, but they make a lot of good arguments, so we'll see.
Well, what my understanding of the bill is, it gives the legislature 3 years to come up with revenue to replace what you lose.
That's correct. And since they've blown their budget 66% over the last 5 years, I think they can afford it.
They can afford it, or they can raise money in different ways.
That's correct.
They could remove the sales tax exemption on groceries.
Yeah.
They could remove it on. They could up the sales tax. There's lots of ways they could do it.
Yeah. But people should own their home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you live in a
I agree.
home. Yeah,
I
and
agree.
it's hardest on seniors and young people, which I don't like the senior freeze, because really the people hurt the most by high property taxes are young couples searching for the American dream, which in their mind is a house, part of it.
Well, not the current issue of the Oklahoma Constitution, but the one before. My article was on the 3 different ideas on eliminating property tax.
Oh, okay.
And that's the first one. I think you can get the signatures. I don't think it stands a chance in hell of people voting it in, because you have so many teachers, every teacher, administrator, and parent that loves a government school vote against it.
Correct.
And then Maisie is the middle group, and his is for veterans and seniors 65 and older.
Yeah.
And the one that I think stands.
I love Mike, but that's redistribution of wealth at its core. I mean, when you give tax breaks to one group, and then then somebody else is paying their taxes. And so I love veterans and seniors, but why would you not give the break to everybody?
Well, I maybe don't see that quite as a redistribution, but David Bullard's has the best plan of all.
I haven't seen his plan.
You don't know about it?
Mm-hmm.
So his is for seniors 65 and older that have their home paid for. But here's the thing. It's like the camel's nose under the tent. So you get that passed, and then maybe next year you'll come back.
I'm for any of those deals.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If I were in the legislature, I'd vote for it, and I'll do it on the ballot, and I'll campaign for them. But I just think that somebody that owns their home, they should own their home.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
But then I guess you can make the same argument for commercial property, but it's a tough argument.
No, commercial is not. And of course, to my knowledge, the first one that got all this started was DeSantis in Florida.
Plug your
podcast. One more interesting one, and he'll be at OPAC tomorrow. But he is the former Canadian Minister of International Trade under Prime Minister Harper. He will be.
What's his name?
I think
Was he at Paul Blair's church?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
So
different guy.
there's some folks from
Different
Canada
guy.
there a few months ago.
Different guy.
Okay.
But now he's coming in through the Canadians that go to Paul Blair's church.
Okay.
But
Well,
anyway,
they were talking about the porn in schools.
That's different. And anyway, he's the one that kind of organized that effort. Brent. I'm trying to think of
Brent.
his name.
Yeah, Brent and his wife. Yeah.
Yes, right. And but anyway, this guy's coming in, and he at the time he was in his position, Canada was very favorable to Israel, and today they're not.
It doesn't seem like they are. Yeah.
And he's met Bibi a few times, and he's done a documentary recently. So we're going to have him. We're actually going to. The only day we can do it is Thursday.
Oh, on your podcast.
But we won't play it for about 2 weeks. But we kind of got filled up.
Oh, that'll be good.
We won't interrupt, but we'll play it. And really, we'll do the Israel part some. But what I really want to know is about the persecution of Christians in Canada.